right. I guess I should introduce myself. My name's Lauren Aldred, and I wanted to do an art show where maybe if other people were struggling with health and they came here, maybe they would understand my journey and hopefully even be a little bit inspired about the things that can heal us. I was the manager of spiritual health for Northern Health, and in the old days they called us hospital chaplains, and I did that work for more than a decade. And what happened to me is I had worked a very, very long day, and there had been too many horrific things, and I ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder and major depressive disorder, both in the severe range. And so this is the story, and it starts with a photograph there, and it's such a nice pastoral scene, but it's eerie because of the light from the forest fires. The little coffin is the grey doves. There are pink ribbon roses on the white socks, and I know this undertaker has gently set straight the little toes in white satin slippers. A baby cries in the last pew, and I ask the mum as I enter to please not leave, please, that God loves the sounds of the little ones. Someone has set tiny white rosebuds in maidenhair fern wrapped in ribbons on the casket. A boy of 4 runs to the front, touches the black of my skirt, abruptly plonks a brown bear, knocking the buds askew. Where is the breath of God, lifting the lid of this little box, kissing this baby to life, setting her in her mother's arms, the little rosebud of a mouth working? Holy and immortal one, please, a christening for this gathering, the cry of a baby at a font. My arms ache. I stand at the altar, the silence deepens. The mother is in the front. A little boy in a rumpled suit sprawls across and in front of her. The father is absent. Into this emptiness our prayer falls. An ant sings. Her voice breaks and she begins again. As though we are also dead, we stumble along with her tunelessly. I remember not the carefully prepared homily, and I pray that others do not as well. We are awkward at the end. The unchurched lack direction. I feel God in my hand and my arms as I touch, direct, hold. It is a ministry of Kleenex. Cousins and uncles place their bundle awkwardly. Too many for this small space, desperate to do something to help. I take my own car to pray along the way. At the graveside, someone moves back the bright green plastic turf. In the dirt, small round quartz pebbles catch the attention of a small girl, pink dress and running shoes. As I speak, her fingers poke at a stone, leaving a hole. The earth smells clean. The grass pushes slender leaves through the spilled soil. I pray for the beloved we sometimes know as Mother Earth, to hold this baby girl tenderly, to kiss her with soft rain, and in the springtime remember her with petals. A bird in the tree sings. Sun moves like a whisper among us. Voices are soft, moving away from the open ground. And I assure the mother I will wait, see with my own eyes that the earth covers this little one gently. And the next painting there on the wall is bright colors, and it appears to be cheerful, but the forest fire is just behind those trees. The next poem is As Mary Said Oh. She said oh quietly. Don't get me wrong, it was a wet and quiet, like a heart torn unceremoniously from the chest, leaves a gaping raw oval of oh. She said oh, as her knees buckled, color blanched from her face, tears and snot ran. She said oh, falling as her friends caught her shoulders, trying to stop the inevitable descent. Oh, Jesus, she said, an entreaty as Mary said oh at the cross, entreating a seemingly senseless and unfair God. She said oh, dust on the knees of her black pants, ankles splayed at impossible angles. Oh, that raised like a two-sided sickle, falling and tearing at the skin and the souls of all in the room. Oh, like Mary, if she had lost not only her son, but her husband. She said, oh, the sound of air knocked from lungs by a car spinning on the ice, coming toward all of those in the world she loved, unstoppable. The oh of open-mouthed, silent screams of children through the glass. The moment before the glass and everything else in the world shattered, she said, oh. And I am so grateful that we don't carry the burden of our experiences alone. And in 1997, I had a near-death experience, and I spent more than a decade trying to capture what I saw. And this is the closest I could come to what I saw, as an angel waited for me to decide whether to live or die. And the presence that I felt at that time prepared me for the work I did at the hospital, because I knew with certainty that there is something beyond this life. But I experienced this overwhelming presence of peace and love. And from that, I know that even if there's not another human being in the room, when we die, we are not alone. That we are embraced and held, and that there's this presence of love and goodness is with us. And there is another painting there that is behind my eyelids, pain blossoms. And I went through what one might expect in PTSD, where I had nightmares continually and flashbacks that are like a dream when you're awake, and you experience everything you experienced in your body as though it's happening again. So I went through that. And then with that intervention, the support of divine presence, things became very silent. And I had this odd experience. I had just started my doctorate in Edmonton, and I tried to keep going with it for a while. And shortly after the incidents that gave me PTSD, I made this mask that's there, and it's called Magpie Mask, Detritus of Dreams. And everywhere I went were magpies. And I kept finding magpie feathers. I found the magpie down, I found the white feathers, and I was joking with some of them. I said, okay, these are beautiful, but I'd like one of those shiny black iridescent tail feathers, please. And when I walked back through there a few minutes later, there was one. What magpies do is they push other birds' eggs out of the nest and lay their own egg. And even if the other chicks are hatched, the magpie grows very quickly and will push those hatchlings out of the nest. And I felt that everything I'd planned and what I wanted for my life had been pushed out. And I tried to be curious about what this unwanted hatchling was going to bring in my life, because it's not what I planned. It wasn't easy, but a silence came. And for a while, I took things that made me not remember my nightmares, and I didn't feel anything at all. And I did that for about a year. And I knew that I needed to get away from all of the demands that were on me, all of the noise, all of the bright lights. But with that silence, sometimes it's lonely. So this poem kind of describes something like that. The moon wakes me. The moon wakes me crossing the sky here under the window, her light in my face. In the yard, deer lie in the tall grass, just visible. I can hear the mosquitoes outside the screen, and the world is lit by silver. My middle-aged eyes strain to my neighbor's yard, where old cars and logging trucks glisten, for once pretty in this soft light. Somewhere a half-cross dog howls in the distance, and others just audible take up the cry. I am awake alone, and the cold suddenly seeps, leaving me shivering. Creaking down the old stairs, I gather his hunting vest over my old cotton nightgown and wander into the yard. The tall grass reaches to my thighs, wet and cold, just caught thoughts of ticks and insects. Down at the lake, ducks startle and are silent. The cushions on the porch swing are damp. Sinking in, my thoughts turn to him, gone now for years. The wind begins rustling the field grasses. I watch the clouds blow across her face, and the rain starts. And you will see there a nighttime photo of the moon. And it was a time where I had a moment of clarity, realizing that all of these things that have happened to me could be used for a good purpose. And that the sum of our whole life experiences can be used by the divine to teach us and perhaps to help other people. And it was a really pivotal moment. I think it was in that moment that my healing journey started. And it was shortly thereafter that I saw this incredible scene, and it was land that had been burnt by the forest fires and clear-cut. It was just a devastated chunk of land, and yet look how beautiful it is. And I think that nature teaches us, and I think the message was for me, yep, you might be devastated and clear-cut, girl, but there's beauty here. I was standing out in my yard, and I'm looking in a frozen puddle, and through that ice, there were tendrils of brown plant and little tiny buds. I think it was chickweed. And the ground was still freezing, and this was in a puddle that was frozen solid, and it was green. And it just was amazing to me. And then a little while later, I'm driving into town, and I see this. Everything's gray and mundane and monotonous, and yet I think it was our Creator peeking through the clouds there. And then we have this painting. For a time, I lived on Dragon Lake in Quesnel, and I wanted to paint something that gave the feeling that you get in spring there. As soon as the ice would go off, I'd go canoeing, and there would be mud in the water and pollen suspended, and you would see the reflection of trees reflected in the water. And that's what I was attempting to do, and I think I didn't do too badly. And the poem is called Gray Green. The senses integrate: scent of lake water, sound of paddle. Through the sky where Moses clouds part for columns of sunlight, reaching skewed down to a lacework of weeds submerged. Old hollow brown reeds float, new ones at the edge just greening at the waterline. Nesting birds startle, then settle in a rhythm. Ducks drag, feet splashes, intersect with sunlight on water. Flash of scale, fish rise partway in water, partway through to air, integrate as gray-green transparent oval, sliding from the mind's page of musical scale as elongated note of A. Lozenge on the back of my tongue, sliding as resonance, tasting of chlorophyll and sounding oval, scenting silver. seen as raindrop on lake, striking, shimmering ringed ripple, touched by paddle tip near loon, lifting slightly beneath me a space of silence, meditation lofting under the browned, muscled arms effort of strong sun. Back of canoe, and leaning slightly back, moves steadily forward. To home above a willowed rise, hallowed by sun behind. Beside me the first leaves of lilies rise from red stems below, rising, turning, floating, unfolding green hands of prayer. It is growing dark, as though this lake water with flecks of yellow pollen raises on the dark wings of water birds to meet the sky. Although it was my toes, pale as minnows, that first submerged, the cold seemingly descends, seeps from the cuffs of my long blue upraised sleeves in thick rolling droplets, to my clenched belly below, down shivering, to the purposeful slogging of my soaked hem, immersing in darkness and cold. Buoyant joy emerges, red-eyed like the liquid trilling of the loon, and I, like the lilies, glow incandescent and golden from within. And I just love the flowers of skunk cabbage. And I saw it one day with the light streaming from behind and just had to take a photo because it was so gorgeous. But be grateful. The smell of skunk cabbage does not come out through in a photograph. And then we come to this, which I call love letters from God or goddess, because there is no practical reason on earth for everything to be so beautiful around us. It's not necessary. So I take it as evidence that we are loved, that all of this is provided to us as something sacred and beautiful. And here there's a painting of fireweed. The leaves make an amazing tea, and you can even eat the roots. And it comes after the fire, but it heals the land. And medicinally, if you drink the tea, it puts everything back in balance. And the next poem is From a High Place Softly. Slicked off the soap with baby wipes and rinsed suds from my hair with water from the dog bowl. Guess how I found the power went out this morning? Laughing and late without a care, to work where it was just a funny story. This is a good place I have landed from a high place softly. So close to the earth here at home, a life where form is function and simple has its own beauty. There is time for home, a garden, chickens, dogs. My ride home is slick with mud. Just past the bridge, I catch air if I forget to slow down. The creek floods the road. I secretly love my old truck and how the mud flakes off when I slam the door. Cold, long-neck glass in my hand, eyes closed, sun in my face, dark beer on my tongue. I could almost pant and let my tongue slide, loll to the side, happy like a shepherd. So dirty from yard work, it is an easy surrender to lie with feet in the mud, granular snow at my back. Head resting on the tire that blew its sides going 110 on the straight stretch. Now has a new life as a small garden, bulbs dreaming of spring, ready to burst into color. More work than I can track in summer, a lush profusion, so many bugs I can't name them all. The wild oats grow taller than me, green, gold, and magenta. Sometimes my small flock leaves me a small, warm egg, fitting the palm of my hand, I learned their name for me listening at the coop. The scent of clover for months, a sweet wallop, leaves me dizzy, breathing it in deep, deep breath as though it feeds me. My love affair with early nettles, the soft green hairs merely tingling my fingertips, brought in by stacks, bundled, hung to dry, the tea bringing the taste of green to my center. Buckets and buckets of those nuisance weeds I love: thistle, chickweed, plantain, chamomile. Picked with as much reverence as what I planted, riches of my old age. I did not know I could turn my hand to the soil like a lover, the scent carried on my fingertips. I returned from my walks like a youth from a tryst, flush-cheeked with straws and bits of branches in my hair. And then we have some summer paintings. And this one, I was trying to capture the joy of childhood where things are simple, colors are bright. And perhaps this represents, even in the healing processes, we have times that are setbacks, we get other traumas, times are hard. And I realized at the creek near where I live that when the pump truck comes and takes all that water, it goes into the belly of the plain for the putting out the forest fires, and all those small creatures, the insects, the dryads, the tadpoles, all of those things are martyrs to putting out our forest fires up here. And I think every one of us in the north, we dream on spring and when the flowers come. And even though I'm anaphylactic allergic to bees, I absolutely love them. They are the dear, sweetest creatures. And I captured this one in the dandelions. But one of the best experiences I've had living up here was I was picking the petals of thistles to, again, make a jelly. And as I picked, I had to carefully pick around where dear little bees were sleeping in the thistles. It was just beautiful. And this is called Second Idyllic Day. All the dogs in the shade sleeping, while across the long grass I'm alone, monitoring my degree of burn in the sun, picking dandelions. I think of yesterday and how thoughts persist, like the scent of sage in my hair, my truck, my hands, and now the whole house. I share this dandelion patch with sweet, fat-assed bumblebees, a pale, chalky blue butterfly, and 2 monarchs. Behind the tree line, a raven's melodic trill to her mate, who squawks from afar, beelines to the nest, plummets feet first down, the most ungainly thing I've ever seen a bird do. Picking dandelions requires little effort, but a lot of patience, separating so many yellow petals from stem and calyx. A lesson from preparing dandelions. Time and patience give no bitterness, only sunshine. And if any of you have ever brewed dandelion beer or dandelion wine, you know you can only get the petals. Because if you get any of those green bits, it makes the whole batch bitter. And this painting is an impression I have of the forest floor where it's shaded and you're way out in the bush, which is where, thank God, I live. So that is like that. And I brought in a poem about summertime. My dad is this amazing man who has an incredible talent with animals. It's called Gentler. Under sunlight dappled by spring leaves, the young mare quivers at the rail. Hearing his voice, her ears swing forward and she trains one eye sideways. Black mane tosses like a timid girl. She nickers as his soft boots puff dust nearing. She is sprung like a winter trap, muscles bunched under her dust-dulled roan gloss, aspen catkins stuck in the winter hair under her withers. She starts as his hand moves slowly in one motion down her left flank. He leans into her shoulder as his voice gentles. In this moment, anything can happen. Sharp hooves can flash, teeth on shoulder or hand. But in this moment, when he leans murmuring, she leans back into him, blows into his neck, sweet, damp horse breath. Of one mind, a gentler one, they see the pattern of leaves and sunlight. On the raw, damp earth, hear the birds in the thicket, smell the cold creek and the warm, near scent of her. But he is a man with a job to do, reaches to the rail for the old soft blanket, and snugs it over her back, all the while keeping his hand on her. She is not sure, and he murmurs. She shifts her feet, smooth shift of bunch muscle like syrup flowing into him. Quicker now, he tosses saddle on blanket. Her head tosses, and she glares, dances on her feet. His arm circles her neck. She leans again into, and the bridle is given as caress. She is already won as he flows his long leg over her back and saddle. She stamps the flamenco step as she arches her back under his weight. Murmuring, he leans forward in the saddle, praising her. She anticipates his request, continues her delicate dance of forward hooves, moves with him, and is not ever broken. And you will see there a tamarack tree. I didn't know what it was when I first moved here. And when I saw the needles turning yellow, I thought that it was dying. And maybe I thought I was too for a while, but it's just part of the season with the tamarack. It's the only evergreen that loses its needles and regrows them in the spring. In this moment, this sadness congeals around the heart, seals my lungs so breathing is too much effort. The dogs bark when from far below I flop over in bed, open mouth and tinged yellow and green, like some bottom-feeding fish. Someone found me on Facebook, defying my carefully constructed boundaries, asking me to carry their sad too. Flood of memories of that place, like swallowing stones for bread. I call in sick. I am always late. I cannot. 2 more funerals this week. I am so cold returning home. And now back in this moment, the sun is unexpectedly warm. The red amaranth is bowed over with seed. My feet find their way to the grass, long bowed over, the straw of it warm, holding me up for a moment, then crushed, leaves sharp-edged but soft. Some of that sad slides down, melts, joins the infinite sadness of the mother. My hand finds the rough bark of the tamarack sticky. The scent finds me. A low hanging branch touches my face like a blessing. And in the distance, one lone dandelion asserts herself out of season, shining like a small yellow sun. And fall is my favorite season. And I've done some painting of what I see the energy of trees as. And it wasn't long after that I started painting trees in winter, realizing that even though that they were resting, that they were so much alive and so vibrant. I live out North Road, and I had been sad, I don't know, a year, 18 months, 2 years, I had not felt any happiness or any joy. And I was driving home one night from work. This is called Winter Road. My old truck sputters and hesitates, exhaust gray and low in the cold. Leaning too far to clear the snow, the shape of the truck is outlined in dirt on my jacket. I dust with my hands until they too are grimy. Outside of the village, it's 31 kilometers to home. I check my fuel level. The scent of fir and spruce fills the cab driving past the log yard. My hands remember the strips of bark, and the memory of tree gum fills my mouth. There is no moon, and the headlights sparkle, an undulating silvered snake of a road as far as the eye can see. I could be anywhere. No houses mar the darkness this time of night, no traffic. A pile of snow hides landmarks. Trees hang heavy over the edges of the road. I reach over to snap off CBC, listening to the snow-muffled silence. My mind is numbed, waked only by a snowball that, rolling down a bank, leaps back up. Snow-coated weasel. I laugh at the trick of the eye. Shadow moves darkly across the road ahead. Coyote or wolf or fox. The size revealed in the tracks as I come alongside. Coyote. Struggling to wakefulness, watching for the knee-bent, dark, strangely graceful shape of moose. I could be anywhere, sleepiness lulled by repetition. The bridge appears, and in the distance, the one lamppost haloed. I slow just a bit, touching the brake too hard, a sharp bank into the turn. Old now and too tired to laugh, I smile. A square grey house to my right, spilling orange light close in, then a cleared field of pristine snow, a reflector ahead, another ridiculous banked turn, and smile home. And then the photograph that we all have taken. I think that the day I drive past Cottonwood and I am not just awed by the beauty is the day that I'm no longer living. And I have felt throughout this healing that when Creator made the earth, the Creator didn't leave, and that the experience of the divine is visceral in the land, and that when we are on the land, that we are in fact experiencing the divine. And science is supporting what elders teach us, that our brain waves and our heart rate slows when we are in contact with the land, that the smell of evergreens, the terpenes, that they have a relaxing effect on the brain, that we exchange electrons with the earth and it prevents cancer. So all of these things that those of us who live up here understand deeply, that the earth herself is inherently healing and a gift from the divine. And this is called healing. A quote from my dad: "At first healing hurts and then it itches." Healing is painful. Unfreezing hurts. The pills, the pins and needles, shaking hands, numb and stamping feet, blood flow restored, mouth closed, teeth gritted, but opening to breathe. Until the drumming panicked "no, no, no" is echoed by my neighbor grouse, felt in my own body through the ground of being. Waking, stumbling in the blue-gray morning, steaming breath meets frost, as simple and profound as I am. The courage of spring, life returning to the land, indiscriminate wild chaos of life, tender green shoots under ice, breath on stones, the very stones cry out, my own small regenesis. Thank you so much for listening to me.